Cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the new video. Yesterday, I told a story where when I was in New Folsom, one of my friends acted in a way where I had to turn my back on him. And before I get into that, I wanna make sure that people understand the way prison is in California, and I'm sure it's the same anywhere. But especially in California, there's a thing that people understand, and it's no favoritism. It didn't matter that he was a buddy of mine. When he made a poor decision, there's ramifications for that. You know, there's a punishment or a penalty for everything in there. Whenever you decide to think as an individual and put your selfish needs or selfish wants, not a need, your selfish wants before everyone else, then, you know, reality is gonna come quick. Now, this story is around the same time, probably within 6 months of the last story. This is the same place, same situation. I'll try to put a link on here so you guys can see the video that I'm talking about and get an understanding of my situation, what was going on, and then it'll give you a better understanding and it'll get me 2 views. So it's a plus, if I remember to do it. Now, this story is a glimpse at the treachery and betrayal. Another glimpse at the treachery and the betrayal of prison. So, there was an incident where, okay, I see, this is where it's hard for me to go. I can't go into the details of it. I have to try to figure out how to tell the story, but just say this. There was a guy on the yard that used to get a lot of dope, okay? And, you know, when he would get dope, he would have to show some appreciation. We'll just say that. He would have to show some appreciation with it every time. Everybody does, right? And that appreciation is hot, I'll tell you that, okay? And I apologize that I'm not, you know, I just have to talk the way I talk, and somebody else can do a reaction to this video if they feel like it and you know, interpret what I'm saying, but I have to say things the way I feel comfortable with, right? So those tokens of appreciation always came to me because I didn't use dope, right? And so this guy, he got his stuff, and, you know, one of my buddies that was, you know, part of the leadership there, asked him, hey, Holmes, where's that stuff at? You know, it's been a couple days, you know, where's that at? You know, that way I can get it down to, you know, he was talking about me, I can get it over there. And I lived in the section next to him. They were in B section, I was in C section. And he was like, oh, well, I got it right here. And so the homie tells me, well, let me see it, Holmes. So he reaches through his tray slot, because the tray slots were unlocked. He reaches through his tray slot and he feels it. And that's where the guy that was holding it fucked up. He feels it and he goes, it's already in my hand. You might as well give it to me. And he's like, nah, let me hold on to it because I'm going to add some more to it. And he goes, oh, well, shit, go ahead. So he hands it back to him. The guy takes out. The guy's a drunk, though, the one that's holding it. So anyways, the next day, he comes out for a shower and he goes back to the same homie. And he goes, here's that thing. I should have just gave it to you yesterday. And as soon as he put it in his hand, the homie felt it and he's like, hey, Holmes, I don't think this is the same one. And he tried to hand it back to him. And he's like, no, that is, eh? And he goes, well, you said you were going to add to it, but it's obvious there's stuff missing. That's where he fucked up, because he had it there was a certain amount that he was basically saying, this is no longer mine. I'm holding it. This belongs to people that are a lot bigger than everybody around, if you guys know what I mean. And not us, but people bigger than everything. And when he said that and let the vato feel it, then once he gave it back and it was smaller, now you stole. You stole from your own shit that you gave to somebody else. Now we have a problem. And the vato, not thinking, when he was told, hey, Holmes, there's something missing in here. First thing he did, he said, my fucking Sally must have went in it. Now, mind you, I don't know about what's going on. I'm in C-section. 3 of the guys that, so 4, I can't give the numbers up. So there were people in that section that were part of the leadership, right? And so they immediately, and they were neighbors, and they started talking. I'm completely blind in my section, right? Next day I come out to yard and I'm told, hey, look, Holmes, Spencer, that we couldn't wait for you, but there's an issue that we already came to a conclusion on. And I was like, how was that? And they were like, oh, well, no, I mean, you know, and I was like, no, it doesn't work that way. Everybody hears and everybody speaks, then, you know, we'll decide. And so they were like, okay, you know, this and that, this is what we decided. And so their decision was to whack the dude Sally, right? And what it was is the guy with the dope was a drunk, but the guy, his Sally, was a hype. He used to slam, he used to use heroin. So they were taking the easy route and saying, you know, let's believe this guy and just, you know, move on the other guy, right? So as I'm hearing the story, I'm like, nah, that's not the way it is. And they were like, well, what do you mean? And I said, come on, it's obvious, eh? You vatos don't give a fuck about his Sally because he's a dolphin. You want to keep the connect on the yard. And so in order to feel as if you did your job, you're going to throw away one and leave the other. I said, let's remember what we're dealing with here. Regardless if the one vato gets high, the one that you spoke to put it in your hand, took it back, and then put it in your hand short. If he felt his Sally did something, then he should have handled that in the cell. He's not doing that. And more importantly than that, how many times does this dude lie? How many lies have we caught him in? So how do we, knowing that he's a habitual liar and he lies about everything, why would we accept that this is the truth? Other than because you vatos want to keep the dope man here. Now, they didn't really like what I had to say, but they knew it was right. And so what I told them was this. My advice, take it or leave it, I ain't nobody. But my advice is, instead of whacking the Sally and leaving the dope man, they are both going to kick in an amount of money. I'm not going to say the amount. I said they're both going to kick in this amount of money, and they're both going to kick in this amount of dope, or else they both go. So what do you think? They heard that, oh, that's even better, right? And so the guy that was the dope fiend, he was actually an all right guy, you know. He had been around longer than me, and he was sweating it. And then when he heard the final outcome, he was like, man, Holmes, thank you guys, man, you know, this and that. And he came to me and he said, hey, can I ask you for a favor? And I said, what? He said, can I sell up with you? I want to move in with you. And I had a Sally, a good kid, man, youngster. He was a good guy. I've talked about him in other videos. And I told him, hey, you know, you've been around longer than me, and you know that it doesn't look good when a situation like that happens and then you move out of the cell. I would never move. I would make him move, but I wouldn't move. And he's like, nah, homie, because I don't trust anybody but you, this and this, and all the bullshit, right? So I was like, you know what? I'll do that for you. I'll let you move in. So I let him move in. And he was a cool Sally, man. He was a good dude, you know, and he became a tester for me. Every time I hit dope, he would get high for free. You know, I was getting this dude high every day. Here, Holmes, here's your little wake up. You know what I'm saying? You know, I would go out, go to work. I was yard crew, you know, feed the vato. He didn't really have family and money and all that. It was nothing. I had fed, I had, you know, dope. I had everything, you know, and I would just, you know, hey, you know, take care of the pad, you know, when I'm out there, you know where things are in the house, make sure the hudas don't fuck with, you know, everything was good. And then his brother was killed, right? His brother was killed out there in the SGV. His brother wasn't a gang member. And when that happened, it was his little brother. When that happened, it did something to him mentally. Of course it did. And I think it was even worse for him because his brother wasn't a gang member. They wanted him to be from a neighborhood, a certain neighborhood, and he didn't want to be from there, and they killed him. That's the story he was telling me. It sounds a little I've never heard of that happening where, oh, you don't want to be from our neighborhood, and then they smoke you. Usually there's more to it, but that's the story that he gave me. That's the only story I knew, and that's the story I'm telling you. But he would get drunk and get emotional over his brother. He wanted to retaliate against the neighborhood that had supposedly killed his brother. And I told him that's not possible. You can't gangbang. If a vato comes and he did that to your brother, that's personal. That's your business. Nobody can tell you anything. But there's no gangbanging. You know that. Everybody knows that. I remember one time I had left the cell and I went to go to work and I forgot something. And I came in and I could hear banging. Boom. Boom. And I went to my cell and I looked in, and my cellie had his boot, and he was like bent over like he was hiking a ball, but it was his boot, and he was hiking it into the door and then go get it and go back. I don't know how that was relieving his stress, but things were just on his mind, man. And from me telling him that he couldn't retaliate on somebody from that neighborhood, I think it put a bad taste in his mouth. And he started acting in a way that I didn't like, and I knew what it was. He was angry and he wanted to get into something. And I knew I had to come to a decision. If I move him out, then we can maintain our friendship, right? Or relationship, whatever you want to call it. If I keep him in the cell, I'm going to wind up killing him in the cell, or he's going to wind up killing me. Because he's mentally no longer right in the head, because he's so full of anger. And he wants to commit violence on somebody. And I'm keeping him basically handcuffed. You're not going to do that. And so it was just building up in him. Because I actually grew fond of the guy, I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and move him next door with a close camarada of mine. So I moved him over there. The whole time that he and I were cellies, he never did meth. I would get meth, I would get crank, whatever, heroin. I always got heroin. But now and then I would get some white. Didn't like it. Didn't like having it anywhere around me or on the yard. But, and he would tell me, I'm not going to test that. Send that to somebody else. But all the black, I'll test. Weed, I'll test. I was like, all right. So when I moved him next door, what did he do? He started doing meth over there. Because whenever I would hit dope, my camarada that was next door, I would always look out for him. Grammar to, here you go, homie, get your locker right, get whatever you need, take care of your family out there. Whatever you want to do with it, that's your thing. And my old cellie started using it. And I remember one day he was like, I think I have some plastic in my eye. His cellie, my camarada, comes out and he's like, hey, he's losing it. And I told him, you don't got plastic in your eye, homie. I told him, I'm going to send you a shot. You need to go to sleep. Late that night, man, when the cop was coming by for count, he jumped on my camarada. Threw him up against the door for the cop to see and hear. Started taking off on him. And he knew of something that we had planned. There was something big that we were going to do in-house. It had nothing to do with any other races. And we had 8 knives in a cell that were going to be used within the next day or two, all at the same time. There was going to be a big movement going on within, the car, and he knew about it. And so when this dude threw his cellie up against the door and started socking on him in front of the cop, he cuffed up and stepped out of the cell. And when he stepped out of the cell, he looked directly at my cell. Because as soon as I heard the commotion, I jumped up. Me and my cellie jumped up, and we're looking out the cell window. And when he came out, I saw his face and I saw his eyes. I already knew from hearing what happened, I knew what was next. So I was off of the window, off of the door looking, so that he wouldn't be able to see me, but I could see him. And he yells at me, that's fucked up, homie. That's fucked up that you're trying to have me killed. I saved this man's life, then brought him into my sanctuary. In prison, the only sanctuary that you have is your cell. You don't want anybody in your cell that you can't live with and you can't be compatible with. I brought him in, made him comfortable, fed him, got him high, everything. He had all the luxuries. And he yells at me in front of the cop. That's fucked up. You're trying to have me killed. When they took him to the cages, he told the cops where those 8 knives were, and then he made up a big old story. Part of it was true, but what he really tried to do, there was a specific cop in New Folsom that was treacherous. He told that cop, because there were 2 knives that were huge. They were bone crushers. Minimum, they were 8 inches, flats about this wide. They were monsters. And he told the cop, go in such and such cell. You're going to find 8 knives. 2 of them are huge, and they're for you. And he told the cop that I was going to have him killed. Was not true at all. That was complete bullshit. I remember the Juras came early in the morning, tore up the section. Why the guy still had the knives in his cell when he saw this guy leave at 3 in the morning, I don't know. But he wanted to go into the hole for it. That was a dumb move. As soon as that happened, all the shit should have been, I can't tell you, but there's a way we could have got rid of everything, still had it, but in a different place that would not have been found. It was like just a ball of fuck-ups that day. You know, one bad thing after another. But I wanted to just tell you this story, man. Give you guys a glimpse. I saved a man's life. Then he turned around and tried to destroy mine. What little tiny, you know, in prison, you don't have a life. You just exist. He tried to destroy my existence. So there's a new story for you guys. There's another lesson. Prison is not a place to be. There's no fun. The people that you could treat the best in the world can lose their mind in a second, and you become their biggest enemy. Not the cop, not nobody else, but you. With that, everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, right? I'm out.